Hello, everyone. My name is Emily with Rising Stars Football Academy, and welcome back to another installment of Hashtag Feature Friday, a segment dedicated to featuring different student athletes and coaches and their experiences with our camps and combines. Now, today we are joined by Garry Cathell. Mr. Cathell is the Executive Director for the Pennsylvania Scholastic Football Coaches Association and the Big 33. He also sits on multiple national high school football coaches boards and associations. He's worked alongside Ron Johnson in the Rising Stars Football Academy to help student athletes achieve success on the field, but also in the classroom. We are so excited to have him join us today and can't wait to dive in. So thanks for joining us, Garry. How's it going?
Good, Emily. Thank you so much for having me on and being part of the Rising Stars family.
It's been a great experience so far, and I can't wait to talk to you in a little bit about the work that you do with the PSFCA and the Big 33. So can you tell us a little bit about those organizations and how they're tied together and the mission that you hope to accomplish with these organizations?
The PSFCA, or otherwise known as the Pennsylvania Scholastic Football Coaches Association, is the professional organization for the high school coaches here in PA. Organization now has been around close to 40 plus years, and I have to say that I've been associated with it for most of those years. It's been a long time. I've been associated while I was coaching and being a director in the district and everything else like that. We have a very, very good, strong organization. The organization is split into 12 districts, much like the PIAA, our governing body. We have directors from each of the 12 districts, and we have a lot of events and activities that we are responsible for. Our mission statement with the PSFCA is to help educate our coaches and lobby for our players. The organization is very, very strong and active. As I mentioned a little bit ago, we do quite a few things. And I think we'll address some of those today as we go through our talk, especially with the new branch to our tree, which is the combines.
I guess we'll start off with probably the biggest event that you guys hold and the most popular, most familiar with all the people watching. So the Big 33 football game. So this is a staple of these two organizations and has grown tremendously over the years. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with these games and how they come together each year?
The Big 33 is an all-star game that has the distinction of being one of the longest running games in the country. This year will be its 64th year. It has had so many talented athletes and genuinely intelligent human beings participate, coach in, be around. The Coaches Association became involved with the Big 33, I would probably say about 10 or 15 years after its inception. The game was originally put together by media men and women in the early years, and it eventually filtered over into the Coaches Association when a gentleman by the name of Mickey Minnick took over. He actually was the executive director of the PSFCA, and he was the one that established the working group, the Big 33 Scholarship Foundation. And through the Big 33's middle years, I would say from about year 15 and on into the future, the game really began to grow and skyrocket in popularity and become a annual event here in Pennsylvania. I actually started in my position running the game 5 years ago, and because the Coaches Association under Mickey Minnick ended up acquiring all of the logo rights to the game, it was just natural for us to try to take over and do a great job and try to run the game as best as we could and continue the rich tradition of the event. So the last 6 years have been a great experience for me and the PSFCA being involved on a full-time basis running the game. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of hard work. We've managed to prevail, and we're excited about putting together our 64th game here this year.
And just like you said, 64th game is going to be coming up pretty soon, but due to the pandemic, things are going to look a little different and change a little bit. So what are some of the new changes or additions to this year's Big 33 football game?
As everyone knows, last year's event did not happen. We did select a team, and those 38 players who we selected last year for 2020 are part of the Big 33 family. If they make it to the NFL, and hopefully they do and make it to the Super Bowl, they will represent Pennsylvania in the game. The pandemic has been very frustrating and tough on many, many people, us included. We felt that it was important last year to hold off as long as we could, and we really did try to wait to see if we could have the game. for everyone's health and safety we needed to do, which was cancel. And so we began to plan for the new game. The game will have different looks, like you mentioned. The game is typically a 5 or 6 day event. We're not going to be able to do that this year, mainly because of constrictions on the number of people involved. We have the game over Memorial Day weekend. We will have our East-West games tied together on Sunday, the day before, and some of the other events that normally are there will not be able to be there. The fan experience, our USA Football Combine, other events and activities that the players participated in. We're going to have limited buddy interaction. We have 2 tags that are associated with the game. There's never been a Super Bowl without a Big 33 player, and the Big 33 game is considered more than just a game. And what I mean by that is one of the biggest activities that are associated with Big 33 are our special needs participants that actually will partner up with the players, will partner up with the cheerleaders. And it is such a meaningful time for not only those young adults, but the players who may not have had the opportunity to be around many special needs children and their families. And it's always been a big part of the Big 33. We're going to try to continue that this year as best we can. But again, as you know, with COVID, it can affect the kids with special needs who have many pre-existing conditions, and it's going to limit our contact there. We want to have all those people involved in the events, the cheerleaders, the host families, the buddies, and I mentioned host families. For years, we've had families who will open their homes up for 3, 4, 5 days to these young men who they've never had the opportunity to meet until a month or so prior to the game, and they bring them into their home, and in so many of the cases end up being part of each other's family for years and years to come. We've had host families who have been involved with players for 25, 30 years. Our honorary chairman is Todd Rucci. Todd was a former Penn State alumni and also an NFL player who played with New England. Was in the NFL for 9 years. 2 years ago, the last game that we actually played, Todd's son made the Big 33 team. Todd's son stayed with the host family that he stayed with. This year, Todd, as I mentioned, is our honorary chair. His youngest son is selected to play in the game. Had he been able to stay with the host family, he would have stayed with that same host family. So we really have a whole lot of great stories that come out. Our head coach this year, Jack Young, he is the son of Jack Young Sr., who was also a head coach in the Big 33. So just, again, so many unique and great experiences, and not to mention so many great athletes. Your Jim Kellys, your Joe Namaths, to recent Ben Roethlisberger. Names go on and on, Miles Sanders. So it is an exciting event, and we're excited to have it happen. We use the military a lot for that weekend. It's a military-themed game now, and we want to continue it that way and having it at Central Dolphins High School. I know the venue has been very accommodating for us at Central Dolphin. A lot of people were upset with me when I moved the game from Hershey to Central Dolphin, but, at that time, it was probably the best thing that we could do. Central Dolphin has roughly a 10,000-seat stadium that when we played the last 2 years, it was really like a playoff atmosphere. As we stand here in the first part of April, we're at 50% capacity, and that's going to be close to 4,000 people in the stadium. I do want to mention that you can go to our website, which is www.big33.org, to find out information about the game. We are in the process of redoing our website. Right now, you're still looking at the old website, but we're getting ready to move into a new appearance here shortly. That could happen, but all the information on there is up to date as of now. And as tickets become available, you can get them there on our website. We hope to have more and more as we get closer to the game and the event.
I'd like to talk a little bit about your relationship with Rising Stars Football Academy and Ron Johnson in particular. So why did you decide to partner with Rising Stars?
Well, my first year with Big 33 was the year that I met Ronnie. And I don't know, I like calling him Ronnie. But Ron and his group came in and they wanted to be a sponsor. I got an opportunity to meet and talk to Ron, and he started talking to me about his camp. And what I found as I got to know him and talk to him more and more, he was all about what our association is all about. And that's caring about the kids, doing whatever you possibly can in your power to help these young men, not only to be good athletes, but to be good people. And as I talked to Ron and he started talking about his academy and all of the events and activities that were there, I just felt like there's got to be some way that we can get Ron involved with us. And more importantly, we are 100% behind Ron with his Rising Star Football Academy, his vision there. And we try to help him as much as we can.
And how important do you think it is that Rising Stars adds these educational and life skills elements to our camps and combines? It's not just about football and what you do on the field, but also how it's reflected in the classroom and in your community.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people don't really consider a part of what an athlete truly is. They're not just football players. They come from diverse communities. They come from different educational levels. Obviously, they get great on the field training with Ron and his people, but the educational component of how recruiting works, how do you handle college coaches? What do you need to do? What do your parents need to do? If a person doesn't go to their coach and ask, or their coach doesn't do these types of events with them, and not all coaches will do that. You can go to a camp like Ron has, and you can get this education. Ron has reached out and he partnered with NCSA, which is a national recruiting service. They do a great job with giving insight, what you need to know as a parent, what you need to know as an athlete. Those being parts of all the things that Ron does at his events. It's a total package. That's what I always consider. And I tell Ron, do the total package, and he does.
You mentioned previously that a new aspect about your organizations and partnering with Rising Stars is the 5-star regional combines that you helped to create. So we will be having a few of these across the state. So talk a little bit about the features and the different benefits of these combines and why they're so important for student athletes to attend.
We've been planning this now for probably a year and a half, 2 years. It really came about with me through Dr. Bob Lombardi with the PIAA. He called me one day and he said, "Gary, do you think that we could set up a meeting with our big school college coaches?" Coach Franklin was involved, Coach Narduzzi. At the time now, I believe Coach Cheney was just coming in to the position at Temple. A lot of the information that came up in that meeting, in some of the meetings that he sat in, was college coaches wanting to do what is called straight line recruiting. Straight line recruiting is being able to go directly through the high school coaches and going to the high school coaches only, and not going to coaches who may take a kid to a 7-on-7 camp. As an association, we want to try to limit that contact. We want the college coaches to come to us because we're the ones that are coaching the players and the kids. That's essentially what Dr. Lombardi wanted to see, how our own people in the state felt about it. They would have much more confidence in coming to a group that the Pennsylvania Coaches Association backs and produces, and knows that they're getting a quality product that is, not being exaggerated because of, they know a kid or anything else like that. It's going to be data, and it'll be collected professionally, and the event will be handled professionally. I actually started to talk to Ron about this because, again, I knew his involvement professionally with his training facility that he works for, and we just started to talk a little bit about the idea. If the state's a rectangle, I always felt that there was 5 distinct areas where it was the most heavily populated. And that's where we came up with the 5 stars. And we wanted to put together combines where a kid can go, and if they did not like what numbers that they threw up at this combine, would have the ability to go to a combine nearby and do a retest. And so our plan was to try to have 5 regional combines, put together maybe the top performers at each of the 5 combines, invite those top performers to our Big 33 weekend for a showcase, but more importantly, to get statistics and information out to the public. So again, with some of our connections, we were able to meet up with a gentleman who is a regional director of Huddle, Tom Orpeza, and we talked with him, and he has tremendous connections throughout the state. And we started to put the combines together. We're hoping that as we go through this year, that We develop some consistency as to where the combines will be, what time of year they will be, what site they will be at. We want kids to start thinking about going to these things as ninth graders so they can see how they stack up over a 3 or 4 year period. And we would have and collected data on them and distribute the information to the colleges through all of our connections. We're pretty excited to get this thing rolling here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with this, new age of recruiting, but really, like, how significant are these camps and these combines in gaining that type of exposure, especially coming out of a pandemic, hopefully pretty soon? Like, are these camps even worth going to help gain that exposure in the recruitment process?
I always like to encourage kids to go to combines and go to events where they do football. There are some athletes that are fortunate enough and gifted enough and skilled enough that they don't need to go to a combine at all. They get recruited because they're great athletes, and they get recruited and they get scholarships. But that's such a small percentage of kids that play football. The exposure of the Joe Smith, who is a really good local quarterback, who's maybe 5'11" and 190 pounds, and is not going to be looked at by a lot of people, but he has great intangibles, which are he's a great leader, great arm, great student, great person. And the kid's got to be on the football field somewhere. And that's where combines and things like we do can help, a college maybe make a decision on a kid. They say, well, I saw this kid at the Northeast Regional Combine. He looked pretty good there. He looked good on tape, but I got to see him in person. With being able to have these events, and again, we hope after the pandemic, they really become an event, where there's a lot of people, a lot of things going on around all of the testing. But right now, we're going to try to do the live streaming and get this information to the coaches. Yes, it's beneficial. It's beneficial to a young kid to see how he stands up against not only the kids that he grew up with, but kids that are out in other communities nearby. If I'm a young kid and I'm a ninth grader, I want to see what linebackers are doing that are my age. And each year, these kids come back and they want to participate, and they get this good data out there, and then we do a good job on our end getting the data to the colleges. I think those marriages will happen between that John Smith, who was just the average local quarterback. We have a grand scheme plan, and we're just hoping that it all works for us.
To kind of conclude this little interview here, we like to end on maybe an inspirational note or aspirational note. So what's one piece of advice that you'd like to share with any junior high or maybe high school football player?
They're cliches, but they're just so true. You got to work hard. You got to pay your dues. You have to put in extra time. Sometimes you have to take a back seat to an older player. Use all of these little stepping stones and little tidbits that you pick up as part of your package that can allow you to become a good football player, but more importantly, to become a good person. I said that early, and I'll say that again. My advice to kids who went off and are going to go to school, don't do stupid things that are going to put you in a position where you have to defend yourself. You want to be able to sell yourself. When you're defending yourself, you're not a good product. But when you're selling yourself, you have something to give to somebody and they will take it. So, you want to make sure that you've touched all the bases and you've worked real hard and you've done the things that you need to do. And good things will happen. I think many people don't understand that football is constantly under attack. It's kind of been on the back burner with the pandemic, but the concussions are not going to go away. That's going to come back to the forefront once the pandemic goes away. You got to practice safe techniques. You got to learn good skills as a coach and player. I think these are all the things that make good athletes and good coaches.
I'd like to thank you for all the insights that you did share with us about PSFCA, the Big 33, and the upcoming combines that we have. So I think our viewers will appreciate an inside look into these organizations and all the great work that you guys do to help student athletes succeed, not only on the field, but in the classroom and in their community. So thanks again, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Emily. It's been a lot of fun. I look forward to working with you at the combines, and keep up the good work.